Hey dog lovers, it's Zach from the Pampered Pup. Bark of the morning to you. In this video, I'm going to do a comparison of Spot and Tango versus Ollie's fresh dog food recipes. I'm going to show you how they stack up on quality, that is, how they look, how they smell, how they taste, and yes, I've tasted them both. I'll also talk about the convenience of these services as a pet owner, things like managing your subscription, how fast they ship, how the food itself is packaged. Finally, I'll compare Spot and Tango versus Ollie on cost. And I've done the calculations to make sure we're looking at this in a fair way. But if you're just looking for that quick answer, I'd say that Spot and Tango is definitely the better choice for most dog owners out there. It's a really high quality dog food with tons of delicious proteins. And honestly, I wouldn't really recommend that anybody buys Ollie. I think your dog deserves better. And if you're spending money on fresh dog food, then I think you deserve better too. So another alternative you might want to check out is The Farmer's Dog, and I'll leave my link to their review right here. In any case, if you do decide to choose either Spot and Tango or Ollie, make sure to use my links in the description of this video to get the best discount that I'm currently aware of. Right now you can save 50% off your first box with Ollie or 20% off your first order with Spot and Tango, but if those deals change over time, I'll always keep those links up to date. So now let's dive into this comparison and see how Spot and Tango and Ollie's fresh dog foods compare on quality. When I evaluate fresh dog food's quality, the first thing I always assess is its appearance. Does it look appetizing? Does it look like something I'd want to eat? Or does it look like dog food? So I have here the beef recipes from each company. On your right I have Spot and Tango's beef and millet, and on your left I have Ollie's beef with sweet potatoes. And upon taking a look at them right away, I can see that Spot and Tango's recipe has nice vibrant green peas and whole chunks of dried cranberries. It's not the most appealing fresh dog food I've seen visually, but it doesn't look that bad. The meat also looks firm and appetizing, and even though it's ground more finely than I'd like to see, I'd say it still doesn't look quite like dog food. On the other hand, I have Ollie's beef with sweet potatoes recipe here, and my impression with Ollie is the same as it always has been. It looks like a homogeneous paste with specks of vegetables mixed in. The meat's really finely ground and the vegetables are not much more than flakes of color. Overall, it looks kind of like a spreadable paste, and definitely looks a lot more along the lines of dog food. So I'd say Spot and Tango's beef recipe takes the upper hand here. Now let's look at the poultry dishes, and I have on your right here Spot and Tango's turkey with red quinoa and Ollie's chicken with carrot dish. So it's turkey versus chicken, but hopefully that's close enough. And once again, in the case of Spot and Tango's turkey recipes, there are nice vibrant green peas in here, chunks of either sweet potato or carrot, it's always a little difficult for me to say, and nice grains of red quinoa in there. They add a nice contrast to the rest of the dish. But I would say there's a little more going on in this recipe than the beef recipe, and while I'd like to see larger chunks of ingredients, overall it doesn't look too bad. In the case of Ollie's chicken with carrot recipe, this is actually the first time I've seen any whole chunks of ingredients in there. I can see 1 or 2 green peas, but notably they're really quite drab in color. They're like a really light olive green compared to the bright green peas that you have with Spot and Tango in there. And since I've analyzed so many aliquots of Ollie's fresh dog food, I'm surprised that this is the first time I've actually come across any whole ingredients. And as with Ollie's beef recipe, the rest of the vegetables are merely flakes in the mix here. And once again, the meat's really finely ground and it looks definitely like a spreadable paste. Definitely not all that appetizing and definitely kind of along the lines of dog food. So once again, I'd say Spot and Tango's turkey recipe is the clear winner here. The next thing I evaluate when assessing fresh dog food's quality is its smell. Does it pique my appetite or does it smell a little bit more along the lines of dog food? I'll start by assessing the beef recipes from each company here, and I'll start with Spot and Tango's beef and millet. So as usual, that smells really clean, really nice. There's no off-putting aromas there. Definitely smells like something I could absolutely eat, something I could absolutely enjoy. Nothing bad to say about it. It doesn't smell mouth-wateringly savory or anything like that, but definitely pure, definitely clean ingredients. Let's see how Ollie's beef with sweet potatoes stacks up. Ugh. And as with all my previous experiences with Ollie, the beef recipe here is really, really strong. There's lots of heavy off flavors here. I suspect it's from the organ meat, and I'm guessing they just use too much because there are plenty of other dog foods out there that use organ meat that taste absolutely delicious. So hands down, Spot and Tango's beef recipe wins there. Now let's move on to the poultry recipes from each company. And I'll start with Spot and Tango's turkey with red quinoa here. As with the beef recipe, the turkey with red quinoa smells very pure, very clean. You can pick out the individual ingredients with your nose. You can definitely smell the quinoa, which is interesting. It's a bit of a toasted or nutty flavor, but it smells really nice. It smells appetizing. Definitely would not mind giving that a try whatsoever. Let's compare that with Ollie's chicken with carrots dish. So that's not anywhere near as bad as Ollie's beef with sweet potatoes dish, but it still has those heavy aromatic components in there. It smells like chicken. It just smells a little bit heavy, a little bit unappetizing, and a little bit along the lines of dog food. So once again, Spot and Tango's turkey with red quinoa takes the cake here. And how do these fresh dog foods stack up in terms of taste? Well, when doing these comparisons, I always prefer to taste the recipes side by side right here on camera. But with all these recipes, I've made that mistake a couple of times. You know, fool me once, yada yada yada. So I'll leave links to videos where I try these recipes firsthand in the description of this one, so you can check that out if you'd like. But I'll just give you a quick rundown right here. Much like the aromatic profile of Spot and Tango's recipes, the tastes are really pure and clean. You can pick out the different ingredients, and the textures are really nice from the inclusion of those whole chunks of ingredients. The chew of the quinoa is really impressive, and the pop of the green peas is a pleasant surprise. And what really sticks out in my mind is that dried cranberry. There's not a lot of them in there, but when you hit one, it's kind of exciting. Ollie's recipes, on the other hand, are definitely tough on the palate. The chicken with carrots recipe is not nearly as off-putting as the beef, but both of them have very strong flavors and very much taste like dog food. So much so that I've woken up in the middle of the night with the lingering flavor on the back of my palate. Obviously that's a psychological thing, but it really was not a great experience anytime I've eaten it. And beyond the off-putting flavors, the textures of Ollie's dog foods are really unappealing. They're dry, they're grainy, they're pasty, they kind of get caught in your mouth as you're trying to swallow them. Really not a pleasant experience at all. And frankly, I think your dog deserves better. There are plenty of fresh dog food brands out there that make delicious tasting food. Spot and Tango is just one example. So just a bit more facts about these recipes before we move on. In terms of the number of recipes each brand offers, Spot and Tango offers 3 variants, whereas Ollie does offer 4. Spot and Tango's recipes are formulated by a PhD in veterinary nutrition, and while Ollie's recipes are formulated by veterinary nutritionists, I don't see that they're board certified or anything like that, or that they hold a PhD. That might be the case, but I wasn't able to track it down on their website. All of the recipes from both brands are formulated to be nutritionally complete, so that they comply with the standards set by the AAFCO. And the recipes from both brands are all made in the USDA kitchens, so they're subjected to the same safety standards as human food. In terms of nutrition, the most important thing in my mind is the protein content as fed. Spot and Tango's recipes range from 12 to 14% protein as fed, which is pretty high for fresh dog food. Ollie's recipes range from 9 to 11% protein as fed, which is fairly standard when it comes to fresh dog food brands. So you're getting more delicious protein per pound with Spot and Tango, and that'll come back into play when we talk about price in a minute. But now let's dive into the convenience of these companies to pet owners. When it comes to purchasing, both of them do require you to have a subscription to purchase the food for your pup, but luckily, like most fresh dog food brands, it's as easy as can be to cancel. It can all be done within your account dashboard on their website. There's no need to call customer service or anything like that. With a few clicks, you've canceled your subscription, no more orders, no more bills, you're all good to go. Shipping speeds from both of these companies were fairly fast in my experience, and of course it can vary a little bit depending on your location in the US. I placed my order with Spot and Tango on a Sunday, and it arrived at my doorstep on the following Thursday, so it was 3 full business days between placing my order and receiving the shipment. With Ollie, I placed my order on a Saturday, and it arrived on my doorstep on the following Friday, so it was 4 business days in transit. So a little bit longer with Ollie, but nothing to complain about really. And the shipments from both of these companies are really well packed with dry ice, so the food's frozen solid when it gets to your door. And what's nice is that both of these companies use completely recyclable packing materials, so as you're unpacking the shipment, all you have to do is, put it in your recycling bin. There's no need to dissolve that cellulose insulation and run it down your sink or anything like that, which can get messy. In terms of how the food itself is packaged, I really like that Spot and Tango sent smaller patties for my meals. They were about a ½ pound each, or 230 grams, and they're vacuum sealed in plastic packaging with easy peel tabs. It's nice that you don't have to defrost too much fresh dog food at one time and worry about whether or not your dog's going to finish it before it goes bad. Ollie, on the other hand, sent my meals as the largest packed bricks that I've gotten from any fresh dog food brand. Their patties range from 1.5 pounds to 1.75 pounds depending on the recipe. They do give you that easy peel tab as well, which I think is kind of nice, but I still think it's a lot of dog food to defrost each time. They also provide you with a reasonable quality pup tainer and scoop to store the thawed food in, which may have something to do with why they give you such large frozen patties. When it comes time to serve the food, you just have to defrost it in your fridge overnight, although based on the size discrepancy, I'm sure Spot and Tango's patties defrost a lot quicker. And with both of these companies, once the food is thawed, you want to make sure your dog eats it within 4 days. Of course, no comparison would be complete without discussing how these fresh dog foods compare on cost. Usually when they sign up for a subscription, they sell you plans in terms of dollars per week or dollars per day, which I think is a nice way for pet owners to figure out how much the dog food's going to cost them in the long run. That said, it's not really a fair way to compare cost across brands because they all calculate your dog's nutritional requirements a little bit differently, and all those plans offer slightly different amounts of food. I prefer to compare the cost on a dollars per pound basis, and since the moisture contents are fairly similar across brands, I think this is a fair way to approach it. My calculations put Spot and Tango's recipes at about $9 per pound, whereas Ollie's recipes come in at about $6 per pound. So it's a little bit cheaper for sure. That said, you're definitely getting a higher serving of delicious proteins in Spot and Tango's recipes, and protein is definitely one of the more expensive components in dog food. And beyond that, when you look at the disparity in quality, it's no question to me that Spot and Tango's recipes are worth the extra $3 a pound. If you're looking for something a little more similarly priced to Ollie, you might want to check out The Farmer's Dog, and I'll leave that video playing right here. Their food tastes excellent, and it's similarly priced to Ollie's. And if you do decide to choose Spot and Tango or Ollie for your pup, remember to use my links in the description below this video to get the best discount that I'm currently aware of. Again, right now that's 50% off your first order with Ollie, and I believe 20% off your first order with Spot and Tango, but I'll always keep those up to date. Best of luck finding your pup a delicious tasting fresh dog food.